All right, frequency tables and histograms. Okay, a frequency table and histograms. The histograms part, if you look at the example on page 239, if we look at the example on page 239, a histogram looks very similar to a bar graph. Okay, it is in a lot of ways. A lot of the steps are exactly the same as a bar graph, but it is not a bar graph. Okay, it's a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit about how it is different. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go chapter 10. That's what, page 238. I want these two things in my notes, so all right. So, as we can look at this right here, okay, that histogram looks very similar to a bar graph. What's one difference, though, right off the bat that you can see? Emily? Right, they're all touching each other. They're all right next to each other, okay? We said yesterday in a bar graph you have to do what with the bars? You have to have a separation, okay? You have to have a space in between them. So right off the bat, that's something that's different, okay? What else is different? What else can you see that's different? Know what?
At the bottom there are numbers of the years difference, like this one is age difference.
Right. There's a group down here in our categories. Okay, down here in our categories right here, there's a difference. Instead of having a month like October, November, December, instead of having United States, Russia, something like that, our categories have what looks to be a subtraction problem. Okay, it's not a subtraction problem, but it is different. What this means is, down here on the bottom is for example, this first one right here means 0 to 4 in the amount of hours. So if they did 0 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, that's what that bar represents. Okay? So it's different in that sense that we have more than one thing down here in our categories. Okay, and they've told us what our category is. It's the number of hours that they practiced. Okay, it's the number of hours that they practiced. Okay, so that's another thing that's different than a bar graph. Okay, the last thing that's different is this on the vertical axis, the frequencies. Okay, in our bar graphs that we did and looked at, the frequency was, in our cases, like we talked about this morning, was dollars. Okay, one of them was dollars. The other one was, what was the other one? I know it was mini Olympics. Money. So it was, both of them were money, okay? In this one, they're talking about frequency. Well, what does the word frequency mean? Anybody have a guess of what the word frequency means? Jonah? Okay, but don't use the word frequent. You're on the right track, but you're using the frequency and frequent are the same thing. Noah, what do you think? Right, how often or how many times it happens, okay? That's another way to express frequent or frequency. Okay, it's how many times something's occurring is the frequency. Nobody gave me what station the radio's on. Good, because that's a frequency, but it's not what we're talking about in regards to histograms, okay? Now, so that's what a histogram looks like. Okay, we're going to be doing a little bit of histogram stuff, not a whole lot. Okay, but to have a histogram, we have to have a frequency table. Okay, this right here is your frequency table. Okay, that's your frequency table. Okay, in a frequency table, we have intervals, tallies, and frequencies. Okay, excuse me, we have intervals, frequencies, and tallies. Not Brandon's, but tallies. Okay? They did use my first name up there, which I don't like, but, you know, hey, they always use my name in vain. Mark. I always used to get confused when the teacher in class, they'd go, mark your paper, and they'd say like stuff like that, and I thought they were calling on me. Then when they were actually calling on me, I thought they were giving instructions, so I was always confused. I went home one day in second grade and asked my mom if I could change my name to my middle name instead of my first name. And she was like, why? And I'm like, well, I get confused. The teacher's always saying Mark, and I don't know if she's talking to me or she's talking about instructions on how to run the class. So they said, well, you'll get used to it. And I'm like, oh, great. So I don't get to change my name. Because you know what my middle name is? My middle name is Cursive. My mom was an English person, so she named me Mark Cursive Smith. So, wouldn't have been much better to have been Cursive, would it? No, my middle name's not Cursive. Have some of you fooled. All right, now, so, this is a frequency table, and realistically, a frequency table you need to have for a histogram. Now, the hardest part, okay, of a frequency table and a histogram is to the hardest part about a histogram or a frequency table is to find out what your intervals need to be. Okay? In this particular case, our intervals in this example are 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and 25 or more. Okay? Now, let me look here. Good. Okay. I can get away with doing that. All right. Now, when you're looking for frequencies and intervals, okay, when you're looking for intervals, it's the hardest part because of the amount of information that you're trying to process. Let's just look at, I'll give you some numbers here. Okay, I'm just going to write these numbers down. Let's say all right, let's say I have all those numbers, okay? The reason that we do a histogram a lot of time is because we have a lot of data that we have to process, a lot of numbers that we have to process. And so obviously in this case, you know, if I was doing a bar graph here, you'd have a ton of bars, okay? And so we can't do bars in this case because we don't have a distinct number, okay? Let's say this is the amount of tips that a waiter got in a restaurant for the month.
Justin, Douglas, please come to the office.
Okay. Let's say that this is the number of, or the amount of tips, okay, that a waiter got in the month of June. Okay, for every time they worked, they obviously started slow. Okay, they weren't a very good waiter, so they only got $5 in tips, then $6. By the end of the month, they got, they figured out how to do it. They're starting to get $32 tips, $34 tips, and so they sort of figured out what was going on. Okay, in this end down here, they were washing their customers' feet. I don't know why you would get $5 one day and then in the end $34 another day, but so you did. Okay, what we would have to come up with is the intervals for this. Okay, when we're talking about intervals, that's what each bar is going to represent. Well, we don't want a bar for every single number that's here. If we just said the interval is 1 and we said, okay, the first interval is 5. Okay, you'd have one person getting a 5, or he got one $5 tip, he got two $6 tips, he got one $7 tip. So you can't do it that way. You'd have a graph just full of 20 bars, and we can't have that. Okay, so what we want to do is to figure the intervals. We want to look at the range of the data. Okay, and you're not going to have to construct a histogram. You're just going to have to know what a histogram is. We actually have to construct them next year in 7th grade. But I want to just touch on what intervals are so you understand what they're trying to do. Okay, the range of data here is what? What is the range of the data? 5 to 34. Okay, that's the range. Now, to understand that range, if we take 34 minus 5, that gives us what? 29. So basically, we could have a range of 30, right? It's basically a range of 30. So we can say our range of the data is 30. Okay? So if the range of our data is 30, and for our histogram, you want anywhere from 5 to 7 bars. Okay? That's about all you need, is 5 to 7. Okay, well, 5 and 6 go into 30 evenly, right? So let's use 6 bars. So if I had 6 bars, I would simply divide 6 into 30, and that is equal to 5. So that means my interval are going to have 5 numbers in each one. Okay, and what I mean is this. So our first interval would be 5 to, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 5 to 9 would be our first interval. Okay, so what's after 9? 10. So 10 to 14 would be our second interval. And then 15 to 19 would be our third interval. Okay, and then 20 to 24 would be our fourth interval. 25 to 29 would be our fifth interval. 30 to 34 would be our sixth interval. Now, is 34 our largest number? Okay, so that's where our intervals stop. Okay. Now, what we would do then is we'd go back and we'd just start going down these. Okay. All right, I have a 5, so that goes in that one. I have a 6, goes there. Another 6 goes there. 7 goes there. 8 goes there. 8 goes there. 8 goes there. 9 goes there. 9 goes there. So there's 9 numbers in my data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 numbers in my data that are from 5 to 9. Okay? And then you would go on and keep doing the same thing. Okay, so let's do it real quickly here. Let's see. So 10, 12, 14. Okay, then we've got 16, 16, 18. Okay, so there's only 3 there. Then we have 20, 22, 23, 23, 24. Then we have 26, 28. Then we have 30, 32, 32, 34. So there's your tallies. So this would be our intervals. This would be our tallies. Then you'd have your frequency. So here we had 9, here we had 3, 3, 5, 2, 4. There's your frequencies. Okay? And then you would use that information to do a histogram. Okay, if I was using that information to do a histogram, I'd have a histogram like this. Okay? And down here I would have my frequencies. 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 25 to 29, 30 to 34. Okay? Over here I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have to go up one more. 9. Okay, and then I just do my frequencies. How many 5 to 9s did I have? Was it 9? So I would go up, all the way up to 9 and come down. How many 10 to 14s? 3. So I go up, come down. 15 to 19 was 3 too, correct? So I come up, go down. What's 20 to 24? 5. So I go up to there, come down. 25 to 29? 2. 30 to 34? 4. There you have it. Okay, now that's a very sloppy one. Okay, it's a very sloppy histogram, but gives you an idea of what we're doing. And that's how they're constructing those. Like I said, you're not going to have to construct it this year, it'll be next year, but I wanted you to see how a histogram and frequency table are interrelated, because you got to answer questions about both of them in just a second. Okay? And so I want to make sure that you understand how to answer those questions. All right, let's look at question number 1. Question number 1 says, how many members survey practice for less than 20 hours? So they want us to go back to these two. They want us to go back to the histogram, and they want to know how many participants practice less than 20 hours. Okay? Well, if we look at it, here's 20 hours right here. Okay? Here's 20 hours right here. I'm going to blow it up here so we can see it better. All right, so here's 20 hours. So we don't look at these two right here. Okay, you don't look at these two blocks. Okay, so we go back this way. 15 to 19, how many people practice that amount of time? 5 people. Could we go right across here? So that's 5. So there's 5 people there. Whoa, hang on here. There's 5 people in this block. How many in this one? 9. How many in this one? 5. And how many in the last one? 1. So if I take 1 plus 5 plus 9 plus 5, that gives me what? 20. So 20 people practice less than 20 hours. So that would be your answer to number 1. Okay, so you see how I did that, right? Okay. I'm just looking at all the questions. Okay, so that's how we read the histogram. All right, so your homework today is very simple. We're going to do 10.2, 1 through 10. Okay? You obviously don't have to write the original problem because they're word problems. Okay? You don't have to draw a copy of the histogram. So realistically, you got 9 questions that you should be able to answer in the next 8 minutes that we have. Okay? And then the last one is figuring mean, median, mode, and range of that data. Okay? So go ahead and get to work.